Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. I'm Dell and this is the designer for From the Depths, and I'm in a little new ship that I created for the campaign. So if we just go and have a look at what we have here. So this is the bridge with our Rambot standing on the chairs, as is his wont on occasion, and we can see out the windows here. But if we just go for a little bit of a walk, this is a new ship to do the resource collection at the zones. So we just go here, we just come off here and go back with it. Now this is running the latest patch, and on the latest patch these spinners seem to be doing, they're not smooth anymore. Don't know if that's been done for FPS reasons, but I've got that spinner running at a constant rate and it's just a bit jerky there, but it doesn't matter. So this is the Gnome, I've called it, the BMM Gnome, which is the Bretonian Merchant Marine Gnome, and as you can see it's got some drills and some resource gatherers. It's basically a sailing ship. It's just made out of wood, there's no ironclad metal here. It's a cheap vessel. Not specific, especially fast, obviously, being wood, but the idea is to stay in an area and gather all the resources, and then one of the merchant schooners will come along and pick up everything that it has gathered and take it back to the main base. So that's the aim of this particular ship. It's got a few guns in it. A nice little gun, a bigger, rather largish Cram Cannon on the front, slightly different style with a little bit more speed on the shell, so it should be able to defend it against small targets. Obviously anything large is not going to be really defending itself, but generally it will just try and run away and let the main fleet come around to it. So that's our first build. So yeah, hopefully that's something that we'll be putting into that new zone that we just took over, and we'll get that built up and moving into there. The other ship that I have, if you bear with me 1 second, we'll go and have a look at. And welcome to the new range of dirigibles from the Bretonian Merchant Marine. So this is a little starting dirigible. Now it's not truly lighter than air, it is actually a flying vessel. Inside here I actually filled it with wings. I did think about using rotors, as I've seen other builds used, but I decided on this just to try doing it using wings instead, and it seems to work reasonably well. The engines are controlled with some advanced control blocks inside here. We've got a nice little deck area for some passengers if need be, but we've got many controllers which, depending on the altitude, affect the engines to keep our altitude around the 200 mark, roughly, give or take a little bit. Weapons wise, it's not really designed for weapons, this at the moment. It has actually got a couple of these new bomb chutes for the Cram Cannons, so I'm having a little bit of an experiment on those. They're not massive bombs here, they're just a couple of small ones just to have a little play with those. But yeah, that's an interesting design. I've also put the radar dish on this because it can be a bit of a scout at the same time. So that's our new dirigible. So I did try this with the balloons, but it looked a bit ugly, and it was, well, that was the main bit, and it looked just a little bit wrong. I might do one with the rotors later on, so I can possibly make one that goes a little higher. We'll see how it goes. But this is a new one. It's mainly going to be used for transporting materials overland, where there's a problem potentially with sea vessels, the schooners not being able to get them in a reasonable time. So we can use this dirigible to get there. So okay, that's the other latest addition to the fleet. So other than that, what is the plan at this moment? Then I'm going to take out the Whispy just for the moment, because we don't need that one on board. The plan at this moment is actually to look at a ship to replace the armoured starter boats we had, the starter rib. And what I would like to have a look at is something similar. It's going to be a fast torpedo boat as such, but I don't want to make just a torpedo boat, to be honest. I don't want to just make a plain fast, just fires torpedoes. I want to make something which is a bit more of a torpedo gunboat. Now, how does it fit in with our ironclad idea at the moment? Well, quite simply, initially gunboats were fairly small boats which were used in the Navy, generally more for river type work as such, rather than anything else, and they would basically be fitted with some quick firing guns and just try and stay out of the action. But there was nowhere they were going to start taking on, say, battleships in a big engagement. That was not their purpose. That did change a bit in about, well, the 1870s or so. There was a torpedo, the Whitehead torpedo, which was a pneumatic air powered self-independent torpedo. It wasn't guided with sonar, it was just point and shoot. But that was the first time when one of these small gunboats would be able to have something which could damage a larger battleship. And at that time, there was a new strategy where there was lots of torpedo boats being used, and they would sit behind the main battleships, and when there was an opportunity they'd zip through and try and take on the battleship. So okay, that's fine, but later on what happened, you had the torpedo gunship or gunboat which would then try and take out the torpedo. Their main aim was to defend the battleships from the torpedo, and it's the start of the destroyer line of ships, where you've got a ship which is defending the main ships from smaller ships. But anyway, that's the history of it and how it fits in our little campaign at the moment. What I'm going to base this on, there was a few gunships in the Navy. There was the sharpshooter class, where there was actually a HMS Spanker. That name just caught me straight away, and I thought, yep, got to build one of those. Basically, it was a fairly small, fast. It was bigger than a torpedo boat, but fairly fast in comparison to, say, the larger battleships that would be coming. It would be in a flotilla with. So it was mainly armed with, a few torpedoes. I think it was actually, its torpedoes were on a couple of deck mounted turrets effectively, so they could actually turn to the side. So we must duplicate that, and then there was a couple of fixed ones as well. That may have been the alarm class, so we might duplicate that type of design. And then it had some quick firing guns for dealing with smaller targets. So it wouldn't be going up against big armoured targets, but the smaller targets. So what is the plan? Using that as a baseline, we're going to try and build a similar sort of vessel. So we're starting with the front deck, because the way somebody say, how do I build a hulls? But because we have to, I always start with the gun deck before I start building the hull underneath to carry everything. So because this will set the width that we need, we're going to see if we can fit everything in. Now armaments, that is where we are starting. So torpedoes. Now I'm thinking that we'll have a couple of torpedoes, and I'm just putting something down just purely as a guide at this moment. We're not having massive torpedoes, it's just going to be some small torpedoes, something like that. A couple of fixed forward firing torpedoes, potentially, like that. Seems could be quite interesting. And then somewhere at the back, I'm just going to make a somewhere, say around here, we'll create let's see how we're going to do this. It's a little bit more awkward doing turreted missiles, because the fail-safes don't quite work how I would like. So I can either make it, yeah, we're going to follow what was actually on the one of the ships, so we're going to change it a little bit, but we'll have, I think, two. Yeah, we're going to have maybe a couple of them. We'll actually put them on a turret, so the turret will aim at the target within a certain angle and then start firing. We'll have them turreted possibly on the rear one, so we've got one on each, a pair on each side. Now the other part I want to use this gun, this ship for, is it's going to be the start of an AA type of gunship as well, and some guns. So we'll possibly put a gun somewhere up on the front. Now it's not going to be a massive gun; it will be another Cram Cannon, designed purely to take on somewhere around here. Designed to take on small targets, so somewhere around that area, yeah. And then finally on the rear, I think, might put a second quick firing gun somewhere, maybe in the center, but somewhere I want to have an anti-air system. Now we'll use missiles for this. Now I might make this gun suitable for anti-air targets, so give it a good elevation and possibly make it fast firing. Put two of these guns on somewhere, maybe one there, one on the rear, and then also I'll have a slightly higher system somewhere around here. Again, I'm just putting something in as a guide point at this moment, but possibly a fairly short range anti-aircraft missile system, possibly somewhere around this sort of area. Okay, so that's our plan. So let's just start this off with these torpedoes. So if we were building this here, the first thing what we're going to need is we're going to need a controller on each of these. Now what we can do is we can actually reduce some of the space required from there by now putting in our weapon controller in the center, and because they're within the right range, they should be able to control both. Yes, they will be able to. So we won't have to worry about a fail-safe on these, I don't think, but we will need a receiver, which we'll put on this side here. We're gonna armor this up a bit, I think, because it's gonna have to survive against other craft that are out there, some of the smaller but other craft. So we will create a metal forecastle. This is going to be where the bridge will be, I think, generally. So okay, what else are we going to do for this torpedo? Now I'm going to put on this missile. Let's see, we're going to put an ejector on these. There we go. What else shall we put on here? Then we'll go for the design. Now this will be our heavyweight, slightly longer heavyweight torpedo, and these are going to be slightly shorter range broadside torpedoes. So this one, let's go through torpedo propeller. We'll give it just one fin and one fuel tank, because that's enough to make this go a long distance, so it won't need much more than that. It will have a basic sonar detection, I think, so that only targets the items which are in the water. Won't worry about target prediction. I think we're just going to leave it as a basic. It's going to mimic some of the very basic torpedoes which were available at the beginning of the of this time period. So we're not going to have any anything too fancy on it. I'm thinking just lots of HE. We'll put one fragmentation on here. I think we'll put one frag on there just to give it a little bit of armor piercing ability. But generally we're going to have a 3-second delay on it, so to give it time to get out. Now ejection, we're going to eject it out at 45 degrees, so it ejects away from the ship. Now I've got to say here, I need to experiment this. I'm not sure, because I have turned this on its side, I'm expecting this to eject out this direction, so 45 degrees up, so over here as an injection, so this sort of angle. But we will need to test that with the actual item. Now guidance delay, we'll give it 1 second for the guidance delay. Yeah, that should be all we need there. That's going to be a standard, just basic torpedo, so we'll just duplicate that over here. So that's the basic torpedo, and we'll check to make sure that they work against some target, just to obviously just make sure that they're basically a working process. Right, next we'll look at this front gun. Now I'm going to make it a cram cannon still, rather than go into the advanced cannons. Not too many gauges, but give it a few loaders to get some good HE and a good fire rate. Again, this is going to be targeting small ships, not large ships. So first of all, let's see where we're going to put it. I think just there is a good spot for it. So it's going to be near the front. Actually, let's put it just there, actually. There we go. Right, so I'm going to start with something I tend to do with all of these items is put a load of blocks on the bottom, like this, to stop it being blown up too easily. Now we'll put, let's see, we'll give it 1 gauge here, and then we'll put the firing piece on top of that. And let's see, we'll give it some elevation, so it has got a reasonable elevation, so it would be able to take out aircraft if they do come in. We're not too worried about the accuracy of this at the moment. It's 45 degrees. Let's put another motor barrel driven on there, and then we'll put the there. What's that? Let's give it 80 degrees. If I put one more on, so okay, that leaves it at 80 degree elevation, which means it can take on aircraft or shoot at aircraft. Right, next we'll need the 6-way connectors, and we'll give it a couple of ammo loaders on this. So what we're going to do, we're going to need ammo loaders there. I'm going to duplicate up everything on this, so all the items are going to have multiple ammo load, be connected to multiple items. So we put some underneath, because fast firing is going to be the key with this particular one, or that is the hope. So we'll put let's see, we'll put an ammo box, a couple of ammo boxes up there, so that will give us some good fire rate. So what's our fire rate at the moment? 1.3 seconds. That's not too bad. That there connected to 2 ammo boxes, 2 ammo boxes, 2 ammo boxes, and this one should show 2 ammo boxes as well down here. 2 ammo boxes, yep, that's worked quite nicely. Now we'll put a high explosive in each of those, and we will give it a little hardness. So that's our basic fast firing gun. So 1.3 seconds, so it's not totally slow. Now let's see. The explosive is quite good. armor piercing's not that high, only 8, but it's not going to be its purpose. It's not going to be to have lots of armor piercing. Now we'll give it a little bit of a shield. Okay, so that's that little gun. Next, we'll look at these torpedoes on the back, I think. So we'll build one. What I'm thinking is sink. We could put it quite near the rear. It doesn't have to be. If I'm looking at the size of this gun, if I'm going to build a second one of these guns, I need about 4 or so on the back. Now I could extend the back a little bit, make this a little bit longer ship for the gun on the rear. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll put these about here, I think. So, new object, 1-axis turret. Doesn't need a 2-axis turret, so it's going to be connected there. Now on here, we're just going to build straight onto this the launch pads, and we'll put the controller on the back. No, actually that's not going to work like that, because we're going to need some 6 ways to join these together. So got to be a little bit cleverer here. Okay, let me think. Could put the 6 ways just on front of it. How much room have we got? We can only go back 1 block behind. So let's start with the 6 ways here. Then we'll put the launch pads on front of that. Then we'll put the ejector add-ons on there to give them a bit of an injection boost. We'll need the missile controller. We'll just put a metal block down there so that we can put 2 in, just so that we can put the missile controller on something still pointing at the 6-way, and then we'll add a stagger fire as well with a little bit of a delay. Okay, that looks good. Now that should come in about level with that. So now if we just put our missile blocks onto here, so this is going to be a close-in torpedo, as you can see there. So have a look at the torpedo we're going to have. So torpedo propeller, a fin and a fuel tank, explosive, and a sonar. And fairly simple. 2 seconds. Yeah, 1 second for that, and we'll just leave the ejector as it is. That looks good to me. Yep, that should work perfectly okay. And we'll just actually let's put in the AI where that's going to be, a local weapon controller. Now we're going to put that underneath rather than on top, so it is not going to be quite. Nope, obviously I didn't get it right. It's just just there. There we go, and that one can go there as well. Okay, let's do the other side and duplicate that. So back once I've just reduplicated this. Right, what was supposed to be just creating 1 torpedo ended up me sort of making most of the superstructure here as well, because I wanted to make sure I've got enough room for all the items that I want to put in here. So we've got a little bridge here now with all of the necessary equipment, and then we'll have a little area to come down here, allow us to come down and go down into the engine room and the stores, etc. below. So that'll be the intention. We'll have another one of these guns. So what we're going to do, we're going to create this gun as an object. So if we go over to here and take over this gun, there we go. And then we go into here and do save sub object, and we're going to call this, what should we call this? This will be Destroyer Gun. Destroyer Cram Gun. Okay, and then what we can do is come over here and just let it build it for us. It will just put it just in the right place. Let's just see how much room do we need. About let's put it there and we'll sort out. Yep, that'll be good. So that's one on the rear as well. Now we can armour up this rear a little bit. Put some beams in there actually. Let's put them that way round. There we go. That should still be able to turn, and then we have to put the weapon controller for it, and we're going to have to elongate the rear of this. This is becoming a little bigger than the starting rear. This is becoming quite a large ship in the end. Put some plenty of space on the rear. So we might have to take some... we've armoured up the top quite a bit. I've used quite a bit of metal, and really maybe I should make some of this wood to make it a little bit more resource efficient as such, but I'm not worried about that at this second. Right, we'll armour up the first level, and then we'll just put some slopes down here, I think. So we'll put that one down as one of those, and I forgot to do the mirror line. There we go. I always forget when I come off of a turret, you don't get the mirror line for a little while. Never mind, it's not 100% crucial. So that will be that sort of design. Hopefully that should suffice for that. So the only thing we're left with, we'll have to put some constraints on this turret as well. That didn't take. Let me just try that one more time. Cute. There we go. Right, and we're gonna flip these over, see which ways it's around. So we're gonna fire out to about there, the other side say about to there, and the other constraints can be as they are. So 30, just slightly off the center on each of those. Now the anti-aircraft missile system. Let's see where we've got a place for a controller. Haven't got anywhere there. We've got a little place there, so we could put it just on this rear, just behind the main cannon here. That seems like a good plan. There's some room underneath here for the actual controller, so that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new object, and this is going to be a 2-axis turret, because I do want this to be trying to aim at the target before it fires. And we're just going to put on here, we're going to have to build a few missiles. So let's missiles start again with the 6 ways, because the first thing we're going to have to do, so it's going to just be 3 missiles. We'll then put the launch pad on here. There we go. Now these are going to be close range weapons, I think. Let me just think of another way to do this. Actually, we could do this with 1, 2, take out those. Let's just try a slightly different design. See if this will work. Yep, that looks good to me. And so we can put the controller in. We'll put so we have one item just there and one on the top. So to give that one an injector, and then put the missile controller on here. Nope, that's not to accept that. That's a pain. We can use something else. Let's use something else that it won't complain about, and will allow. So we just put a block on there. So we're going to put a just a metal block on there. Something like that. Now we'll be able to put our controller on there. There we go. That's the 6-way. Select the right block. Thank you. Right, okay, and then we'll put, what we'll need is, we might need an identify friend or foe on this, because it is firing infrared missiles, and we won't worry about them firing all at the same time, because we're going to do a slightly different, something a little bit different with them, because that's what I tend to do, because I like that. I like to do things a little different. You may have noticed on occasion. Right, okay, we'll just put a little bit on the rear for that, just to make it look reasonable. There we go. And right, we won't put anything underneath because this might have to turn all the way around. So what we now need to put on here is the missile blocks. Now, let's see how small a missile we can make here. So if we start with a very simple, we're going to use a variable thruster here rather than using a standard one. We'll have a one fin, a fuel tank. We will need we're going to use the single pixel seeker on each of them, and then an explosive warhead. And anything else that's on there? Let's see. Could put a fragmentation. We'll put a fragmentation on there as well. I do like having fragmentation warheads, and I do set them to a slightly wider spread so that they will possibly catch the small items on the vessel rather than going for penetration. So we're going to put a guidance delay of 1 second. Now we don't do swap, but what we'll do is this one ramp up time will have as well, we'll just go through. What we're going to try and do is have them ramp up at different times. So this one will ramp up to its a good 1500 in 1 second. So that's going to be a fast warhead. This one will ramp up to slightly slower, to 1000 over 2 seconds, and then finally this one will ramp up to only 800 over 3 seconds. So this will be our long range version basically, but otherwise they're all the same, but it means that they will fire at the same time but then accelerate towards a target a little differently. Now obviously here we're going to need a minor we don't want this firing downwards, but I think we'll do that with a slightly different option. We'll set it like that. We most probably won't have it so that its minimum elevation is about, so it just won't quite hit there as the lowest part, and at the front it won't quite hit this gun. It won't try and hit the gun at the top, so that will stop it firing at anything which is too low. Now obviously we haven't got lots of zones with this selection system, but that's enough just to get it so that it's a little safer and won't fire into the ship. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit nicer. Now we're also here, we're going to set this down to where are we? Where's the controller? There's the controller. We're going to set this down so that it's going to fire only when it's in a very tight alignment. 5 degrees. I'll set that 3. We'll set that 3 on number 3. So that's good. That's good. Oh, the controller. We need to put the controller in there. So local weapon controller. It's going to be upside down. We need to make sure we go back to the hull. I think it's there. One weapon. Good. We'll put the we won't worry about failsafe. We just need the wireless receiver. Now we'll work out ranges. I'll do a bit of testing, and then that will allow me to work out ranges. Now the only one other thing we didn't really do is set a few items on these. But I think I'll work those out a little bit later, the ranges of these weapons, etc. I think we'll work out once we've got the rest of it built up and working. Right, so what's next? Basically now I've got to build a hull. And some people said, how do I build a hull? Well, now that I've got this deck, as such, all I need to do, what I need to do is work out a shape which is going to be relevant. Now, generally, as far as height goes, your hull is going to be at least as deep as the highest point of your ship. So if we look at where our center point is at the moment, our center point's there. So about 2-3 up. So I would need to go down. I would recommend about 3 down. Above that to bring the height down, and then you'll need to go further down another 3 or so on the keel, which has got the weight. Now we're going to have to put engine, supplies, etc. in this. So the other thing we do is we start on the rear. You can start on the front, doesn't really matter, rear or front, to be honest. That's not really a key bit, but at this widest section, that we're going to have to smooth off. But this is the widest section at the moment, so we're going to come down a couple, which will give us enough room underneath. Then okay, we're going to have it start to pull in now, because I'd said about the halfway point it needs to start pulling in. Now I'm using wood here. We're not, because I'm to save a bit of resources on this by doing some of this with wood. So we start putting that there. That creates the nice cut in, and then we'll put this one on the back there. Oops, and I've forgotten the mirror line. Oh. Okay, let's do that again. There we go. Now we'll have this one come all the way along there. So this is going to be our room for our engine. Now it's not quite big enough, I think, so I'm going to take that one out of there as well. So we'll go down one more, so we put another cut and then a side, beams in. Yeah, that should be enough for engine, crank, and get a little bit of height on there. So this is now our core part of the hull, and then we'll need to think about the keel. Now you can use stone, so if we just put, for the moment, put on here just so that it acts as a bit of a keel, we'll put that on there, and we'll produce, we might put some lead, replace some of the stone as lead. Stone is heavy, so it's the same weight as weight is 1.6, same weight as a metal block, a metal beam, 1.6. Obviously health wise 1680 versus 1320, it's you know, it's quite, can take a bit of damage as well. Armor is not as low, but it's definitely the main part on that is resources. It's only 120 natural resources, whereas your metal block is obviously 120 metal, which is sometimes less available, and your lead blocks, well, your lead beam is 240 metal. We would still need some lead blocks down at the bottom, but this is a good starting point. Now what we can do is we can create a sub-object. So from this we can create a prefab. So now the width, what we're going to need to do is say the width is going to be, make sure you can just see it in the back there. So we're making sure, so that's the width, and then the height, make sure that goes high enough. Now we're going to have to go down a little bit, and the length, 1 2 3 4, it's going to be 4, right, and There we go. So now if I'm, make sure I'm in this mode here. If I go down, and that height is not quite correct. So let's go and just take that one off the height. So you can see I'm just one below the deck level. If I now press the left mouse button key, you'll notice it's now gone to a open area. So now we can just go forwards to the end of there and just press again. And there we go, made. So now we can just put that all the way forward. So that's got most of that hull now sorted. And just to do the basic, make sure it floats, what I would do is fill in the rear with some beams so it's got plenty of support, and just see what we've got as far as will this float. Basically, how close are we? Now we'll do the same at the front. Now I will angle up the front a little bit, but just for the moment I want to basically close it off just so that it is watertight. We're not worried about that there. I'll sort that out later. And we can just put in here an air pump just to cover the whole lot. Right, if I now just take it off build mode, and we can make sure that we've got, now obviously we're going to be raising the front a little bit, and you can see it is going turtle, so we're going to have to put some weight in this keel. So let's get into this keel, bear with me, let me find out where I am. Okay, so definitely needs to go down a bit, so we find the center point approximately. There we go. I always like to try and start somewhere near the center point. Now, because they're so expensive, I do try to armor the keel a little bit with some metal blocks. So let's go. This is a standard I tend to go with. Into there. This will give us a deepish keel. Is that enough or too much? Let's try. I think we're going to need a fair bit actually, so let's go for a little deeper. Now let's go lead block, beam, and we'll put a couple of these down. And we'll see, and just those on their own, they are far enough away and they are already starting to write this the right way up. So let's just try some slightly cheaper stone, and you can see that's turning it a little bit more in the right direction. And we'll put some here. Basically what we're doing is we're reducing this center point down. We're trying to get the center point of the ship down to about closer to this point, I think. So you can see we still need to go down a bit more. So we'll put a fair bit of stone in at that level, I think. Yeah, I didn't have the mirror line on typically. So let's put a bit more on this side as well. Still not quite balancing over. Let's see if it's going to need another bit of lead. Put one more lead in there. There's a lot of weight, you see, up in this metal, and I'm trying to counteract all of that metal weight. Well, that took a fair bit of balancing and weight down below to get that balanced. See, it's got quite a large keel on it. Not a big problem, but basically to overcome that, what I would have to do is reduce the height of this metal. Also, some of it was because I have used wood in the hull, which makes that the float. This tries to float. This wood down here is trying to come up at the same time as this metal is trying to go down. So what I did do is replace some of the wood with metal, and that just reduced some of the floatability of the hull, and stop it trying to basically counteract the weight above. So yeah, but now it's a fairly good self-floating keel that we can now get some work on. So what I'm going to do now is sort out this front, get that a little bit smoother down, because we want to keep this fast, so we'd have to use plenty of 4 blocks to keep the drag down as much as possible. And the other bit I will be doing is putting in the engine, some repairs, other little bits and pieces inside it, so then we can actually start doing a little bit of battle testing. But see you in a bit once we have a working hull. See you soon. And welcome back. After a bit of testing with some of the guns and working out the ranges, I think I've got something that works. Now I did have to widen the ship a little bit, because the recoil of the Cram Cannons was causing it to turn over a little bit and to go slightly at an angle. Now the choice was more weight onto the keel, but this has got enough weight on the keel, and it's very low freeboard already. You know, at the water level you can see that there's already a lot of water coming over, so really I should have made this a little wider to start with, and then made the hull slightly wider down here. That would have helped all round, but hey ho. But now for a little bit of combat. Let's see how it does. Now, this isn't intended to destroy items. It would normally work in a team of 4 or so, or with the big guns. Its aim is to harass some of the ships. But let's see how it does against something like a Marauder and a Vanguard. So we'll put them up. Now, that's must be more than I would normally expect it to go up against. But let's see how the weapons work. So what's our range at the moment is about 1400. So first of all, we've got to wait for to get in range, and there's those forward torpedoes. And I did have to change the settings on these torpedoes. I'd said I couldn't work out which was the right way round, wasn't sure. And although I've put these blocks on their side, I actually had to set this to do left and right, not up and down. So it's relative to the controller and not the blocks. Oh, we just took a big hit from the Marauder there, which is not good. Our guns are firing. And now our other torpedoes are also firing, which is good. That Marauder has got a big cannon on it, so that's a little annoying. What's our range now? 500, and we should now start going broadside on. So both our guns will start firing, and once we settle down in the broadside, our torpedoes should continue to fire. Although I have set the minimum range on the torpedoes to be about 400. I think I'll reduce that actually. That's a little too high, potentially. So where's the controller for these again? I've forgotten. It's down here. There we go, in the engine room. So yeah, we'll take that down to 300. I think it can still fire, but that's 300 and find the target. Okay, so that's fine. So our torpedoes have got, so it's now doing its slight dash away, firing torpedoes as it goes. Now our torpedoes aren't massive killers, as we've already said. It normally would be a fleet of these, so you'd have 4 or 5 torpedoes flying out, not just the one. Let's go and have a look at what's coming in here. So our shells are, again, they're not death dealers. They've got a bit of HE, so they're taking little bits out, and normally you'd have a a main ship which would be doing most of the damage. Let's see if we've got some torps coming in. Yes, we've got some torps coming in by the looks of it. There. And they did a nice bit of damage on the front, so we're wearing them down. If we had a few more ships, it would be a little bit quicker, because there would be multiple torpedoes coming in on these ships, and our gun is gradually working it down. Again, it's a fairly fast firing gun rather than being a high impact single shot weapon. And we're able, we took a bit of damage, but we managed to weather it as well, so that's all good. So okay, the basic concept is working there. So our ship is okay against other ships. It is there for harassment and multiple torpedoes, and would be normally sent out as a group rather than singly, so I'm not expecting it to be a one-shot kill a weapon. So let's now give a go against a flying vehicle. So if we go, let's try something like just an Atlas. Seems to be a good starting point, so let's see how we go. So where's the Atlas? There he is. So ship is turning in. This is just a test of the basic missiles. Again, it would be more effective against some ships if we had more of these firing at one time, obviously. There's the missile turrets turned, and they fired, and the variable ramp up times have allowed the missiles to hit at different times, so that's good. They don't all hit at exactly the same time. There's another sequence of them going. There we go. So there, that's hitting quite nicely, taking out the Atlas. We are taking some hits there, unfortunately. And again, if we had more ships here, that would be more missiles hitting the ship and doing the damage. So I'm happy with that. It's doing as required. It is a support ship. At least we have some ability to take out air vehicles now if they come in, and we can use our... Oh, it looks like the turret's got stuck there for some reason. We can use our torpedoes to harass the larger vessels or anything that happens to end up in the water, or these flying vehicles once they're in the water. We just need to bring in more at one time, I think, of the ships. But yeah, this is a starting position, and also the ship itself is relatively small. It's only 1,100 blocks. It was down to 1,000 blocks, but because I had to increase the size of the hull a little bit, that put it up to 1,100, which is still quite small, all things considered. It's not a massive ship. 1,100 blocks in from a depth is actually could be classed as a small ship in many ways. We're taking a bit of damage there, but we've proven the point. So I will just destroy it, and so we can carry on, and I can save it. So I will take out the ribs and put in a few of these. I must be putting about 4 if I take out get all the resources from the ribs first and put this in. Should be about 4 of these we should be able to bring in, I think, because it's still a lot of wood in this, so it's not that resource intensive. Fair bit of natural, but the metal's not too bad at all. Okay, any comments? As always, leave them below. Is it classical look? I think the open guns are on the start of the forecastle. It's not totally classic look. That gun seems to have got itself stuck for some reason. Possibly needs repair or something. They sometimes do that if they've got damaged. Oh well, never mind. Yeah, so classical to a degree is a starting point for destroyers as we go through the campaign, and we can upgrade this as we get new weapons and you know, upgrade our level of sophistication. So until next time, click the like button as always, keep playing the game, and above all, have fun.